In a quiet, sprawling mansion on the edge of the city, the rooms were filled with priceless paintings, expensive furniture, and an air of cold perfection. Despite all the wealth surrounding him, the young boy who lived there often felt lonely. He was different from other children. A sudden accident had taken away his sight, and with it, a part of his happiness. The bright smiles and laughter he once enjoyed seemed to belong to another world now. Every day, he would sit silently in the corners of the mansion, avoiding sounds and voices, and even the grand piano in the music room had become an object of fear rather than joy. The boy's father was a billionaire, a man who had everything the world could offer. He tried to bring his son back into the world in every way he could. He hired tutors, therapists, and music teachers. He bought every toy, every instrument, every fancy gadget that might interest him. Yet nothing seemed to work. The boy remained withdrawn, speaking only when necessary, and avoiding any situation that required him to be seen or to touch things he once loved. One afternoon, the household was bustling as usual. The staff moved through the marble hallways with careful steps, trying not to disturb the silence that seemed to hover around the boy. Among them was the maid, a kind and humble woman who worked quietly, her presence almost invisible. She had a daughter, a bright and cheerful girl with a love for music. She was not aware of the mansion's strict rules or the isolation of the young boy inside. That day, she was allowed to stay with her mother after school, because there was no one else to take care of her. The girl wandered through the mansion, her eyes wide with curiosity. She had never seen such a place before. Everywhere she looked, there were glittering chandeliers, expensive carpets, and rooms that seemed to go on forever. Her attention was soon caught by a large door slightly ajar. A soft glow of sunlight fell across the polished floor, and a familiar sound reached her ears, the faint hum of a piano. She pushed the door open gently, her small fingers brushing the intricate woodwork, and stepped into the music room. The grand piano sat in the middle of the room, majestic and intimidating. The girl had played on smaller pianos before, but this one was different. It seemed to call to her, inviting her to try it. Tentatively, she lifted the heavy lid and placed her fingers on the keys. At first, she played a few random notes, just to hear the sound. Then, as she relaxed, she began to play a soft melody she had learned on her own. The notes filled the room, warm and inviting, and for a moment, the world outside seemed to disappear. Unbeknownst to her, someone else was listening. The boy had heard the music from the hallway. He was drawn by the sound, curious in a way he hadn't been for a long time. Carefully, he moved closer, listening to the girl's fingers dance across the keys. Her music was gentle, comforting, and somehow familiar. It stirred something inside him that he had thought was lost forever. He stayed hidden, not wanting to reveal himself, afraid that if he moved, the magic might disappear. The girl, unaware of the audience, continued to play. She hummed softly along with the music, her eyes closed, completely absorbed. She did not notice the boy peeking from behind a tall velvet curtain, his face lighting up with wonder. There was something pure in the way she played, something that spoke directly to his heart. For the first time in months, he felt a sense of connection, a feeling that someone else understood him, even if they didn't know his story. As the melody flowed, the girl began to feel a presence. She stopped for a moment, tilting her head, sensing that someone was nearby. The boy remained still, afraid that any movement would scare her away. She smiled softly and spoke, more to herself than to him. "Do you want to play too?" she asked, her voice gentle and inviting. The boy's heart skipped a beat. No one had ever asked him that question in a long time. Tentatively, he stepped out from his hiding place, his hands trembling as they hovered over the keys. The girl's smile widened. She moved slightly, making space on the piano bench. "It's okay, you can touch the keys," she said encouragingly. The boy lowered himself onto the bench, careful not to disturb her. He placed his fingers on the keys, unsure of what would come next. The first notes were shaky and uncertain, but the girl guided him with small gestures, nodding and tapping in rhythm. Gradually, Their hands met in harmony, and the room was filled with a beautiful, improvised melody. The boy's initial fear began to melt away, replaced by a sense of joy and freedom he hadn't felt in a long time. They continued to play together, discovering a rhythm and a connection that words could not describe. The girl laughed softly when he made a mistake, and he smiled, feeling the warmth of her acceptance. Time seemed to slow down, and the mansion, with all its grandeur and silence, faded into the background. All that mattered was the music and the shared experience of two souls finding each other in the most unexpected way. Outside the music room, the sun began to set, casting golden light across the floor. The girl finally stopped, resting her hands on her lap. The boy, though exhausted, felt a sense of accomplishment. He had played again, truly played, and it felt wonderful. For the first time in months, he had forgotten his blindness and the walls that separated him from the world. He looked at the girl with gratitude, but words seemed inadequate. She smiled at him, her eyes shining with kindness. "You're really good," she said simply. "I hope we can play together again tomorrow." The boy nodded, a small smile forming on his lips. It was the beginning of a friendship neither of them expected. A bond formed through music, trust, and the unspoken understanding that they had found a safe place in each other. As they left the music room, the boy returned to his usual spot in the mansion, but something inside him had changed. The walls of his isolation had begun to crumble, and he felt a flicker of hope. The girl, unaware of the impact she had made, skipped alongside her mother, humming the melody she had created. Neither knew that this simple, unplanned encounter would mark the start of something extraordinary, something that would touch not only their lives but the hearts of those around them. After that first encounter, the boy found himself thinking about the girl and the music more than he had expected. Each day, the sound of her piano echoed in his mind, reminding him of something he had almost forgotten: the joy of creation and the simple happiness of connecting with someone without words. He began to look forward to the moments when she would arrive. Even if he could not see her face, he could recognize her presence in the way the notes filled the room. The girl, too, felt a spark of excitement each day she returned to the mansion. Playing alone had been satisfying, but playing with someone else, someone who could truly listen and respond, had given her a sense of purpose she had not known. She had not expected to meet a boy like him, so reserved and cautious, yet so talented. She could sense his initial hesitation, the fear that lingered in his every move, but she also sensed a hidden determination waiting to emerge. Their daily sessions began to take a rhythm of their own. The boy would arrive quietly, lingering near the door for a moment before stepping forward. The girl would nod with encouragement, her hands lightly dancing over the keys to invite him to join. At first he played softly, unsure of the notes and hesitant to make mistakes. But with her gentle guidance, his confidence grew. She would hum along, tap the rhythm with her fingers, and smile when he tried something new. Slowly, he discovered that mistakes were not failures. They were simply part of the music. As days passed, the boy began to open up in ways he had not before. He started to hum softly with her, letting the melody guide him. The piano became more than an instrument, it became a bridge between their worlds. Through music, he found a way to express feelings he could not put into words. The girl noticed the subtle changes in his demeanor. A lighter step, a lifted head, a brief spark in his eyes that shone even in darkness. Their favorite part of each session became improvising together. The girl would start a simple tune, a playful melody that wound around the keys. The boy would listen, waiting for a moment, and then join with a note or a small phrase. The two melodies intertwined, building into a harmony that seemed almost magical. Each session ended too soon, leaving both of them eager for the next encounter. The boy's father, observing from afar, had started noticing changes as well. He had been worried that no amount of money or tutoring could reach his son. But now, from the hallways or hidden corners, he could see him sitting at the piano with a smile on his face, engaged in something that brought genuine joy. There was laughter, soft, spontaneous, real laughter, echoing from the music room. It was a sound he had not heard in months, a sound that filled his heart with hope. One afternoon, the boy grew brave enough to suggest a small duet. The girl's eyes lit up at the idea, and they arranged themselves at the piano in perfect synchronization. She guided him through a simple song at first, teaching him the timing and encouraging him to feel the rhythm with his hands. As they progressed, they began creating their own melodies, experimenting with rhythms, pauses, and harmonies. The room seemed to come alive with their shared energy. It was not just the music that transformed the boy. Each day, he became more confident in his movements, more willing to explore spaces and interact with others. He spoke more, answering questions with soft but deliberate words. He laughed more freely, a sound that seemed to make the mansion feel warmer. And even though he could not see the world as before, he began to feel it in a new way through sound, through touch, and through the connection he shared with the girl. The girl noticed that he was beginning to take risks, trying new notes, experimenting with dynamics, and even suggesting melodies herself. She encouraged him every step of the way, clapping or humming when he succeeded, reassuring him when he faltered. The boy began to realize that music was not just about perfection. It was about feeling, expression, and connection. And in her presence, he found a safe space to explore these feelings. As the weeks passed, their bond grew stronger. The boy began to anticipate her arrival, moving quietly to the music room as soon as he heard her footsteps in the hallway. The girl, in turn, would rush to see him, excited to share a new melody or improvisation she had created. They began to notice little things about each other. The way he tapped his fingers when he was nervous, the way she hummed a tune when she was happy. These small details deepened their understanding of one another, even without sight or elaborate words. One day, the girl suggested they try playing a familiar song together, one that had been a favorite of the boy's before his accident. She guided him with gentle hand movements and soft verbal cues. At first, he hesitated, unsure if he could remember the melody. But as their fingers moved over the keys together, memories resurfaced, and the music came alive once more. The boy's face lit up with recognition and pride, and the girl felt a rush of joy at seeing him reclaim something he thought he had lost forever. The sessions became the highlight of their days. Neither cared about the grandiosity of the mansion, the expensive furniture, or the status of their surroundings. What mattered was the music, the connection, and the freedom they found in each other's company. The boy began to feel a sense of independence, realizing that he could create beauty in his own way. And the girl discovered the joy of teaching, of nurturing talent, and of building confidence in someone who had lost it. Their music began to take on a life of its own. They experimented with different styles, rhythms, and harmonies. Sometimes they would play quietly, letting the notes float in the air like gentle whispers. Other times, they would play with passion, letting the sound fill every corner of the room. Each session was different, and each session was special. They learned to communicate without words, to anticipate each other's movements, and to create something that neither could have done alone. The boy's father continued to watch silently from the hallway. He saw the changes not just in his son, but in the girl as well. She had brought light and warmth into the mansion that no amount of money or planning could have produced. He realized that sometimes the most profound transformations come from unexpected sources. A simple act of kindness, a shared interest, or a genuine connection. And he felt grateful not just for the music, but for the bond that was forming between them. One afternoon, as the boy and girl played a particularly challenging piece, they both paused to catch their breath. The boy's hands were slightly shaky, but his smile was wide and genuine. The girl laughed softly, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "You're amazing," she said. "I can't believe how much you've improved." The boy's eyes sparkled, and he responded, "I feel like I can do anything when I play with you." That simple exchange summed up everything they had discovered together. The power of trust, encouragement, and shared passion. Music had become their language, their bridge to understanding, and their source of joy. It was more than just notes and rhythms. It was a tool for healing, for expression, and for connection. As the sun set outside, casting long shadows across the music room, the two continued to play. Their fingers danced across the keys, creating melodies that spoke of hope, friendship, and the beauty of human connection. For the boy, it was a chance to rediscover himself. For the girl, it was an opportunity to share her gift and touch someone's heart in a meaningful way. And together, they created something that neither of them could ever forget. A harmony born from patience, care, and the simple magic of music shared between two souls. The mansion had always been a place of order and precision. Every room had its purpose, every movement was calculated, and every sound was controlled. But one evening, something shifted. The billionaire, a man used to controlling every detail of his life, found himself pausing in the hallway outside the music room. He had come to check on the boy, his son, who had been withdrawn ever since the accident. For months, the boy had been silent, his world shrunken into shadows and quiet corners. The man had tried every method to bring him out of isolation, but nothing seemed to work. Therapists, tutors, and professional musicians had all failed. And yet, on this evening, something unusual caught his attention. From the corner of the hallway, he saw a flicker of movement inside the music room. Soft, delicate notes floated through the air. They were unlike anything he had heard before in that mansion. Curious and cautious, he leaned slightly against the wall and listened. The sound was not the formal, structured music of a teacher or professional musician. It was alive, playful, and full of feeling. He could hear the boy, his son, engaged in the music, but there was someone else. A girl's voice hummed softly along with the piano, guiding, encouraging, and inspiring. The man remained hidden, not wanting to interrupt. He had watched his son struggle for so long that he did not want to disturb this rare moment of connection. From where he stood, he could see the boy sitting at the piano, his hands moving more confidently than he had ever seen. The boy's face, though still shadowed by the dim light, held a small smile. He was laughing quietly at times, and his body moved with a rhythm that suggested he had forgotten, at least for the moment, the darkness that had been his constant companion. The girl was small, bright, and completely absorbed in the music. She guided his fingers, encouraged him when he faltered, and smiled when he succeeded. There was a sense of trust between them, unspoken but powerful. The man realized that she had done something none of his hired professionals could achieve. She had reached his son's heart, not through instruction, but through connection, patience, and genuine kindness. He watched them for what felt like hours, noting the small details that made this moment extraordinary. The boy's fingers, once hesitant and awkward, now moved with growing confidence. He responded to the girl's cues, improvising melodies and harmonies alongside her. Each note was a conversation, a shared experience, a silent acknowledgment that they were creating something together. And in that creation, the boy was thriving. The man's emotions were conflicted. Pride, relief, and amazement mixed together in a way that made his chest tighten. He had always believed that wealth and carefully structured education could solve any problem, but here was proof that human connection could accomplish what money could not. A maid's daughter, someone with no formal training or obligation to his family, had managed to bring joy back into his son's life, and she did it simply, through patience, encouragement, and music. He remembered all the afternoons he had spent watching tutors attempt to coax his son into participation, all the instruments bought, all the schedules arranged, and he felt a pang of humility. He realized that he had overlooked something essential. The human heart cannot be forced or commanded. It responds to warmth, understanding, and respect. This young girl had given his son all three. From the shadows, he continued to watch. The boy, sensing the music's flow, began to hum softly, adding a layer of melody that blended seamlessly with the girl's playing. The man could hear the pride and excitement in his son's small voice. He saw the boy laugh when he made a small mistake, a sound that had been missing from the mansion for far too long. Each moment was a testament to the transformative power of genuine care and connection. The man realized that he had never truly understood his son's needs. He had measured success in accomplishments, in lessons learned and skills acquired, but he had not considered the importance of emotional expression, of freedom, and of trust. He felt a wave of gratitude toward the girl, whose presence had opened a door he had long struggled to unlock. He decided to remain in the hallway, not wanting to intrude but also unable to leave. He wanted to witness this rare magic again and again. Day after day, he found himself returning, watching from the corners, quietly observing the progress his son was making. He learned the subtle ways in which the girl encouraged him, the patient repetition, the smiles and the laughter. He realized that the boy's confidence was blossoming because of these small, consistent acts of support. The father began to notice changes in other areas of his son's life. The boy moved more freely through the mansion, exploring rooms he had previously avoided. He spoke more, answering questions and offering opinions. He laughed with staff and visitors, though always cautiously. The transformation was gradual, but undeniable. And it all traced back to those moments at the piano, shared with the girl who had no obligation but had given everything in her heart. One evening, the man reflected on what he had witnessed. He realized that sometimes the most valuable lessons in life come from unexpected sources. Wealth, power, and control have limits. The depth of human connection, empathy, and trust can surpass any material advantage. The girl had shown this to him in a way that was undeniable and beautiful. He felt a renewed sense of humility, a recognition that even in his position of power, he could learn from those he had considered beneath him. He began to see the girl not just as the daughter of a maid, but as a teacher, a guide, and a friend to his son. Her influence was gentle yet profound, shaping the boy's world in ways that no one else could. He understood that her impact went beyond music. She had restored hope, confidence, and a sense of joy that had been missing. She had reminded him of the importance of patience, empathy, and genuine care. From that day onward, he made a silent promise. He would support this connection, protect it, and ensure that it could continue. He would not interfere unnecessarily but would provide the resources and encouragement needed for both children to flourish. He understood that true growth comes from opportunity, encouragement, and freedom, not force, wealth, or authority. As weeks turned into months, the father's admiration for the girl grew. He watched her dedication, her natural ability to inspire, and the ease with which she connected with his son. She was a rare gift, and he recognized that the boy's progress was inseparable from her presence. He often found himself reflecting on the profound lessons he had learned simply by observing their interactions. Love, care, and human connection had a power that he had underestimated for far too long. He also began to notice the boy's newfound independence. The lessons at the piano had taught him patience, focus, and resilience. He could now approach new challenges with courage, experiment without fear of failure, and trust his own instincts. The boy was no longer merely existing within the confines of the mansion. He was thriving, growing, and discovering his own capabilities. The father felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and respect for the girl. He realized that her impact would last a lifetime, not just for his son but for all who witnessed their bond. She had shown that true change does not come from wealth or authority, but from patience, kindness, and genuine human connection. And in that realization, he discovered a humility he had not known he possessed. Even as he continued to observe in secret, he knew that eventually, the moment would come when he had to acknowledge her openly. He would need to express his gratitude, support her future, and honor the role she had played in his son's transformation. Until then, he remained quietly, patiently, and gratefully watching, cherishing every note, every smile, and every small victory that unfolded in the music room each day. In the quiet of the mansion, surrounded by wealth and grandeur, the true magic was happening not in material possessions, but in the shared music between two children, guided by a girl whose heart was pure and generous. The billionaire understood, perhaps for the first time, that the most valuable moments in life are often unseen, unplanned, and quietly observed. And he knew, deep within, that what he was witnessing would change the course of all their lives forever. The morning was bright, with sunlight spilling into every corner of the mansion. The boy woke earlier than usual, feeling a sense of anticipation that he could not explain. Today felt different. As he walked toward the music room, he felt a lightness in his step and a flutter of excitement in his chest. He had no idea what made the day special, but he knew that he would soon find out. The girl arrived shortly after, carrying her school bag and humming a familiar tune. She had practiced a new melody at home, one she had been eager to share. She entered the music room quietly, as she always did, and was surprised to see the boy already seated at the piano, his hands resting lightly on the keys. She smiled, sensing his unusual energy. "Good morning," she said softly. "Ready to play?" The boy nodded, a smile breaking across his face. Today he wanted to try something new. He had been practicing a small duet he had created with the girl over the past weeks. He had memorized the melody and felt confident enough to play it on his own. As they sat together at the piano, he gently suggested they try the piece without any guidance, just following each other's lead. The girl agreed eagerly, intrigued by his courage. As their fingers moved across the keys, the room filled with a rich, vibrant harmony. The music was more than notes. It was an expression of trust, patience, and shared joy. Each time they played, their bond seemed to deepen. The boy's confidence had grown tremendously, and the girl's excitement matched his energy. They laughed softly when they made small mistakes and celebrated each successful passage with cheerful nods and smiles. The melody seemed to breathe life into the mansion, filling it with warmth and light. Just as the music reached a particularly joyful crescendo, the door to the room opened gently. The boy, sensing a presence, paused, unsure of who had entered. The girl, equally cautious, turned her head slightly. To their surprise, standing in the doorway was the boy's father. He had decided that today he could no longer just observe from the shadows. The courage and progress his son had shown demanded acknowledgment. The billionaire's eyes softened as he watched them play, realizing that the magic he had witnessed in secret had led to this moment. The boy felt a mix of emotions: nervousness, excitement, and curiosity. He had never seen his father so close while playing. The girl, sensing his tension, gave a reassuring smile, letting him know it was okay. The man stepped closer, his presence not imposing but filled with warmth. He did not interrupt, waiting for the right moment to speak. As the final notes of their melody faded, the father approached and spoke gently. "I have been watching you both for a long time," he said. "I see how much progress you've made, how confident you've become, and how happy you are when you play. I cannot express how grateful I am for the time and care you've given my son." The boy looked at his father, a mixture of pride and humility in his expression. He realized that his hard work and the guidance of the girl had not gone unnoticed. The girl's eyes widened in surprise. She had never expected to receive such recognition from someone of his stature. She felt a wave of warmth and gratitude, realizing that her simple acts of kindness had created a lasting impact. The father continued, his voice filled with sincerity. "I want you to know that I support this connection. Your talent, dedication, and heart deserve recognition, and I hope to provide opportunities for you to grow even further." The girl's smile grew, and the boy felt a sense of pride and accomplishment he had never experienced before. From that day forward, the dynamic in the mansion changed. The father became more involved, not as a strict observer but as a supportive presence. He encouraged the boy's musical growth, providing resources, lessons, and guidance while allowing the girl to continue playing alongside him. Their sessions became even more special, filled with laughter, exploration, and shared creativity. The boy's confidence soared, and he embraced new challenges with courage and determination. The girl, inspired by the recognition and support, began to develop her skills even further. She practiced with renewed energy, experimenting with new melodies, harmonies, and improvisations. Her creativity flourished, and she found joy in sharing her knowledge and inspiration with the boy. Together, they created music that was not only beautiful but transformative, shaping their world in ways they had never imagined. The boy's father watched with pride as he observed the continued growth and connection between the two. He realized that the true value of life was not measured in wealth, possessions, or power, but in moments of genuine human connection and support. The girl had taught him a lesson that no tutor or teacher could: the importance of empathy, patience, and encouragement in helping others realize their potential. Over time, their music became more complex and expressive. They experimented with different styles, created their own compositions, and even performed small recitals for the household staff. Each performance was met with applause, smiles, and heartfelt appreciation. The boy's confidence in both music and life grew, and the girl's talent and passion blossomed under his father's encouragement. As the seasons changed, so did the lives of everyone involved. The mansion, once quiet and solemn, became filled with music, laughter, and warmth. The boy discovered a new sense of purpose, embracing his talents and passions with joy and determination. The girl, inspired by the journey she had shared with him, began to dream of a future where her music could touch even more lives. One afternoon, the father sat quietly in the music room, watching the two play a new composition they had created together. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that his son had found happiness, confidence, and connection through music. He also understood that the girl's influence had been instrumental in this transformation, and he felt gratitude beyond words for her presence in their lives. The boy paused mid-melody and turned to his father. "Do you want to play with us?" he asked softly. The father smiled, a rare and genuine expression that lit up his face. "I think I'll watch for now," he replied, his voice warm and gentle. "But I am proud of both of you, and I am grateful for everything you've done for each other." The girl and boy exchanged a glance, their eyes shining with shared joy and understanding. From that day onward, the music room became a place of growth, learning, and happiness. The boy's confidence continued to flourish, the girl's talent expanded, and the father's heart grew fuller each day. The connections they had formed through music became a source of strength, inspiration, and enduring joy. The day had changed everything. It marked a turning point not only for the boy but for everyone in the mansion. The music they created together became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of human connection. And as they continued to play, laugh, and learn, they understood that the most meaningful moments in life are often born from trust, care, and the willingness to share one's heart with others. Months had passed since the boy and the girl had first met at the piano. Their bond had grown stronger with every shared melody, every laugh, and every small success. The mansion, once filled with silence and quiet tension, was now alive with music and warmth. The boy had grown more confident not only in his musical abilities but also in life. He moved through the world with a sense of assurance, a smile that reached his eyes, and a willingness to embrace new experiences. The girl, too, had blossomed. Her confidence had soared, her skills had sharpened, and her love for music had deepened. She had become more aware of the impact she had on those around her. It was not just the boy who had learned from her guidance. She had also discovered patience, empathy, and the power of encouragement. Through their time together, she had realized that small acts of kindness and support could transform someone's life in ways she had never imagined. The father had continued to observe and support their musical journey. He had seen his son grow in ways that no amount of wealth, tutors, or programs could achieve. He had watched a shy, withdrawn boy become confident, expressive, and joyful. And he had learned something equally important about the power of humility and gratitude. He understood that true transformation comes from genuine care, not from instruction or control. He had witnessed the importance of human connection, empathy, and trust in shaping the future of those we love. One afternoon, the three of them sat together in the music room, the boy and the girl at the piano and the father nearby, listening and smiling. They had been practicing a new composition, one that they had created together over several weeks. The music was rich, complex, and full of feeling. Each note seemed to tell a story of patience, trust, growth, and friendship. As they played, the father realized that the lesson he had learned went beyond music. It was about life, connection, and the importance of nurturing the human heart. The boy paused for a moment, turning to his friend. "Thank you," he said softly. "You helped me find joy again." You helped me remember who I am." The girl smiled, her eyes shining. "We helped each other," she replied. "I couldn't have done it without you either. We make the music better together." The father felt a lump in his throat, overcome with emotion. He had watched from the shadows, he had provided resources and encouragement, but he knew that the true transformation had come from the simple, heartfelt bond between these two children. The father spoke then, his voice gentle but filled with sincerity. "I have learned so much from both of you. I see that real growth and happiness come not from money, control, or power, but from trust, care, and understanding. I am proud of you both, and I hope you continue to share your music and your gifts with the world." The boy and girl listened, absorbing the words with quiet reverence. They understood that their journey had not only changed their own lives but had also impacted those around them. In the weeks that followed, the mansion became a place of learning, creativity, and expression. The boy continued to grow in confidence, exploring new musical pieces, experimenting with rhythms, and sharing his discoveries with the girl. The girl, encouraged by the father's support and her own experiences, began composing original pieces, each inspired by their shared moments and the bond they had built. Their music was no longer just a private joy. It had become a story of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of connection. The father encouraged them to share their music beyond the mansion. They organized small performances for the staff and close friends, and later for a wider audience. Each performance was met with admiration and applause, but more importantly, with recognition of the heart and effort behind the music. The boy had learned to trust his abilities and express himself confidently, while the girl had learned that her kindness and talent could inspire and uplift others. Through their journey, the father had also come to a profound realization. He had spent years believing that his wealth and influence could solve every problem. Yet, he had learned that true impact comes from supporting genuine connections, valuing empathy, and nurturing growth. He had witnessed firsthand that guidance, encouragement, and love could transform even the most withdrawn and reserved individual. And he had understood that teaching, mentoring, and caring for others is not limited by social status or wealth. It is a human endeavor that transcends boundaries. The boy's growth was evident not only in music but in his daily life. He became more curious, more willing to explore, and more open to building relationships. He developed patience, resilience, and a sense of responsibility. He learned that mistakes are part of learning, that effort and perseverance matter more than perfection, and that collaboration with others can lead to something greater than what one can achieve alone. These lessons would shape him for the rest of his life, giving him confidence and strength. The girl, in turn, discovered her own potential and the impact of her actions. She realized that her encouragement, patience, and willingness to share her talent had made a profound difference in someone else's life. She understood that kindness and dedication could open doors, heal hearts, and create opportunities for growth and joy. Her journey with the boy had taught her that leadership, empathy, and care are as important as skill and talent in achieving meaningful success. Together, they continued to play, create, and learn. Their music became a reflection of their journey, a tapestry of emotions, experiences, and shared understanding. Each note was a reminder of the lessons they had learned. The value of trust, the importance of patience, the power of human connection, and the beauty of collaboration. Their melodies told a story of transformation, resilience, and hope. As the sun set one evening, casting a warm glow across the music room, the father watched them play and felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He knew that the lessons they had all learned would last a lifetime. The boy had rediscovered joy and confidence. The girl had embraced her talent and impact, and he had gained a profound understanding of the importance of empathy, support, and genuine connection. The mansion, once a place of wealth and isolation, had become a sanctuary of growth, music, and human warmth. The lesson learned was simple yet profound. True change comes from patience, care, and trust, not from wealth, authority, or instruction alone. Every small act of encouragement, every shared moment, and every genuine connection has the power to transform lives. The boy had found his confidence and joy through the girl's guidance. the girl had discovered her influence and purpose, and the father had realized the importance of humility, empathy, and supporting authentic growth. In the years that followed, the boy and girl continued their musical journey, performing together and inspiring others with their story. The father remained a supportive presence, celebrating their successes and encouraging their growth. Their shared experience became a reminder that human connection, love, and care are the most powerful forces for transformation. The music they created, born from trust and encouragement, resonated far beyond the walls of the mansion, touching hearts and leaving a lasting impact on everyone who heard it. Ultimately, the lesson they all carried forward was that the smallest gestures of kindness, guidance, and patience can create ripples that change lives. The bond between the boy and girl, nurtured through music and understanding, proved that empathy, trust, and encouragement are more valuable than wealth, power, or prestige. And as they continued to grow, play, and share their music with the world, they embodied the enduring truth that the heart's influence can shape a future brighter than any fortune could provide.